Tonight, an unsettling quiet has fallen over places that once roared with the sound of American ambition. The massive assembly lines in Everett, Washington, and Charleston, South Carolina are still. These are the places where Boeing, a giant of industry, built the planes that connected our world. Now, they are silent. On August 15, 2025, Boeing announced a historic indefinite shutdown of its commercial aircraft production. This was not due to a mechanical failure or a market downturn. It was the result of a powerful and calculated economic move by China, sending shockwaves through American manufacturing and global trade. Boeing's airplanes were a key symbol of the U.S. China relationship, a major American export that China purchased in huge numbers. The shutdown signals that this era may be over, marking a dramatic escalation in a simmering trade conflict. The implications are staggering, challenging the long-held belief in American economic dominance. The grounding of Boeing is not just a business headline, it is a national crisis and a turning point in global commerce. The silence in those factories speaks volumes about the challenges that lie ahead. To understand how we got here, we must look back at the long and complicated history of trade between the United States and China. For decades, America bought goods that China made, and China bought American technology and agricultural products. This created deep economic interdependence. Chinese factories produced affordable goods for Americans, while China became a top buyer of U.S. soybeans, chips, and Boeing airplanes. However, this relationship was never without friction. American leaders accused China of unfair trade practices, intellectual property theft, currency manipulation, and government subsidies. Over the years, these tensions grew, with both sides imposing tariffs and retaliatory measures. The trade deficit became a major political issue. The first major shots in the modern trade war were fired in the late 2010s, with sweeping tariffs on both sides. This tit-for-tat escalation created uncertainty and turmoil in the global economy. Meanwhile, China invested heavily in its own industries, launching initiatives like Made in China 2025 to become a leader in high-tech fields, including aerospace. China was no longer just a customer for Boeing, it was becoming a competitor. The decades of partnership were slowly transforming into a head-to-head rivalry for global influence. This conflict set the stage for the current crisis. For over a century, Boeing has been synonymous with American ingenuity and industrial might. From wooden seaplanes to the iconic 747 and advanced Dreamliner, Boeing's planes became symbols of U.S. leadership. More than just a company, Boeing was a cornerstone of the economy, a major defense contractor, and the nation's largest exporter. Its aircraft sales were often centerpieces of presidential visits abroad, building strategic partnerships and economic ties. For China, Boeing was essential. Chinese airlines became some of its biggest customers, but this deep relationship also made Boeing vulnerable. As trade tensions escalated, China used its massive aircraft orders as political leverage, sometimes favoring Airbus to signal displeasure with U.S. policy. Boeing became a barometer of U.S.-China relations. The reliance on China was a high-stakes gamble, profitable, but risky. When China decided to hit back, it knew exactly where to aim. By targeting Boeing, it struck at a potent symbol of American economic power. The company's dependence on a single massive market became its greatest weakness. The attack on Boeing was an attack on the heart of U.S. manufacturing. The path to Boeing's shutdown was paved with escalating actions. In early 2025, after new U.S. sanctions on Chinese tech firms, China's Aviation Authority suspended validation for all new Boeing models, freezing Boeing out of its biggest market. China's foreign ministry made it clear cooperation must be based on mutual respect. In May, China's state-owned COMAC secured over 500 orders for its C-919 jet from major airlines. Orders that once would have gone to Boeing. The C-919, once a distant competitor, was now the state-backed alternative. The final blow came in July, when Chinese leasing companies canceled their entire backlog of Boeing orders. Over 800 aircraft, worth more than $100 billion. The official reason was market uncertainty, but the political message was unmistakable. U.S. officials called it a blatant economic attack. With its largest market sealed off and its order book decimated, Boeing had no choice. Planes were being built with no buyers. On August 15th, CEO David Calhoun announced the indefinite suspension of production. "We cannot continue to build aircraft without customers," he said. The dominoes had fallen, leading to the unthinkable, the grounding of America's aviation champion. A new era had begun. The Boeing shutdown is an economic earthquake with tremors felt nationwide. Boeing directly employs over 140,000 Americans, but its supply chain supports hundreds of thousands more. Small businesses across the country, machine shops, software firms, textile mills, suddenly lost their biggest contracts. The shutdown triggered a devastating chain reaction of layoffs, threatening the survival of many family-owned companies. Communities hosting Boeing factories face a severe crisis. Lost jobs, falling tax revenues, and struggling local businesses. The housing market in these areas is at risk as workers are forced to move. Nationally, the loss of Boeing's exports worsens the U.S. trade deficit and rattles the stock market. Boeing's collapse is a stark reminder of how interconnected the modern economy is. A targeted action in one sector can trigger a cascade of negative consequences across the entire system. The pain extends far beyond the factory floor. The ripple effects will be felt for years. The Boeing shutdown is more than an economic crisis, it's a geopolitical earthquake. America's ability to produce complex machines like Boeing aircraft was a symbol of its global leadership. Now, China's move to ground this industrial giant signals a shift in the balance of power. Washington faces a dilemma: escalate the conflict or seek compromise, each with serious risks. U.S. allies are caught between security ties to Washington and economic ties to Beijing, fearing destabilization. Some nations may seek greater autonomy, while the EU could bolster its own industries like Airbus. China, meanwhile, is using this moment to showcase its strength and position itself as an alternative global leader. The grounding of Boeing is being portrayed as a victory for a new, more balanced world order. Behind the headlines, a profound human story is unfolding. In towns like Everett, generations built their lives around Boeing. The shutdown is not just the loss of a job, it's the loss of a way of life. Workers face anxiety and uncertainty. Small businesses near the plants are on the brink. Local charities and food banks report surging demand. The loss of good-paying jobs leads to mental health struggles and fraying community bonds. These are highly skilled workers now standing in unemployment lines due to decisions made far away. The crisis exposes the vulnerability of American workers in a globalized economy. The human cost is measured in sleepless nights and difficult choices. As the nation grapples with the Boeing shutdown, experts debate what comes next. Dr. Evelyn Reed calls it the economic equivalent of the Cuban Missile Crisis. Both sides have shown they'll use their most powerful economic weapons. The immediate priority: de-escalate to avoid a global recession. Some analysts say this is a wake-up call for America to rebuild its industrial base, investing in manufacturing and resilient supply chains. Mark Thompson argues for a new Apollo program for American industry. Others warn the conflict could spill beyond economics. Weakening the U.S. industrial base is also a national security threat. General Robert Spalding urges Washington to strengthen alliances and respond decisively. Yet some call for pragmatism and dialogue. Professor Chen Wei suggests negotiation is still possible, and that both nations share responsibility for global stability. China, he argues, does not seek conflict but will defend its interests. The path forward requires mutual respect and honest dialogue. The world is watching Washington's next move. The stakes could not be higher. The silent factories and grounded airplanes are a powerful symbol of a nation at a crossroads. The Boeing shutdown is a moment of national reckoning, forcing us to confront uncomfortable truths about our vulnerabilities and the changing global landscape. The pursuit of globalization brought benefits, but also risks. Fragile supply chains and economic interdependence that can be weaponized. The shutdown is the ultimate stress test, revealing cracks in the system. Rebuilding will require a new strategy, balancing global trade with national security. America has faced great challenges before and found ways to adapt. This crisis could spark a new era of industrial renewal and innovation. It will take bold leadership, vision, and shared sacrifice. The future is not yet written. The Boeing shutdown is both a warning and an opportunity. It's a call to action for every citizen to engage, reflect, and help shape the path forward. The choices we make now will define the next chapter of American history.